Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I am a cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court appointed and private, marriage counseling, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one on one sessions and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website is lifecoachdanamzalag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our last episode of season 5 a very special guest, Paul Trammell. And just like every of my past episodes, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Paul, the floor is yours, my friend.
Hi, well, Dan, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's an honor to be here.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Paul, and tell us what was your own adventure in life?
Well, golly, there's been so many adventures, but right now I'm on a new adventure. New as of 2019 anyway. I live on a sailboat, and I am currently in Hatchet Bay, island of Eleuthera in the Bahamas. And, life, speaking of adventure, life is one big adventure out here. In fact, I just got out of the water. I was surfing all morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the surf, my hair's probably still wet. The surf is fantastic here today. It was absolutely a life validating session. Talk about happiness. That today's happiness journey was one of my favorites, and that is going surfing. But this all started in 2000. Let's say this started in 2015 when I was living in Florida, chasing one of my dreams to be a musician. I was a guitar player, played in live bands for a long time, over 20 years, and that was the dream I was chasing for most of my adult life. But that came to an end recently, and the end started when I quit drinking, and that is what led me to sailing. And of course, sailing is what led me to here in the Bahamas and the great surf that I caught this morning. So the adventure kind of all started when I was at a party, and I saw a friend who did not have a beer in his hand, and I offered him one, and he smiled and said, "No, I quit drinking." So I said, "Wow, tell me about it. How did you do it? Why did you do it? I'm very curious. I know that I need to do that too. And I've been thinking about it for a long time and haven't pulled the trigger yet." Well, it turns out his brother died. He was sober for a year, and his brother, he quit drinking because his brother drank himself to death. And the deceased brother was younger than me. I was 44 at the time, and that guy was only 40 when he died. So that really hit home. And the next day I decided to quit drinking myself. And I am not really a group therapy kind of person. So I didn't go to AA. But one of the things I did was I called up a psychiatrist and scheduled an appointment. It's someone that I knew. She wasn't a addiction therapist, but I think she was like family counseling or something, completely unrelated to my issue. But I just needed someone to be accountable to and to talk to, and to make my decision to quit drinking more real. And that was one of the many things that helped. But and I wrote a book about this. So if anyone's curious about how I did it, I did develop a method, and it worked for me, and it's worked for others. And the book's called Alcoholics Not Anonymous. But anyway, one of the strategies I developed was to put cash in a box, cash I would otherwise spend on beer. I was a heavy beer drinker, like 12-pack a day for years. And I kept putting cash in a box, and I'd occasionally take it out and look at it. And after a few months, I started thinking, yeah, when I hit 1 year of sobriety, I ought to buy myself something special with this money, and that'll give me a goal. You got to have goals. So I stayed sober for a year. I'm 7 years now. February 3rd is going to be 7 years, so coming up soon. Anyway, my 1 year gift to myself was a sailing class. 1 week sailing class with American Sailing Association in St Augustine, Florida, and that led. I fell in love. I just totally fell in love with sailing. That was a dream that I had for a long time, but heavy drinking had put it on the back burner. You can't really, you can't sail long distances if you're a heavy drinker. You can't bring enough beer, and you can't do it people that sail and drink don't drink while they sail. Not when they're offshore, I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions, but everybody I talk to says, oh no, I never drink when we're offshore. It's just too dangerous.
Mhm.
There's too much work to be done. And there's a lot of reasons, but anyway, quit drinking. Later that year, I bought my first sailboat, taught myself how to sail single-handed by reading books and by practicing. And I sailed that boat from Tampa Bay to the Dry Tortugas solo, which is a 3-day trip. And then from the Tortugas, another 3 days to Miami, again, solo. And then from there to St Augustine, 1,000 miles total. And that was just an amazing experience. Absolutely loved it. It was thrilling. It was scary. It was delightful. It was beautiful. It was everything. It was a once in a lifetime adventure that I'll never be able to recreate, because I'll never have that sense of unknown, that sense of everything's new that I had then. And I knew that. So I actually wrote another book about that experience called Becoming a Sailor. And when those two books started selling, I started thinking, well, here's my ticket to making a living while sailing. If I can keep writing books, if the books sell, I can really chase the big dream and live full time on a boat and make an income by writing books. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. And that's a great example of a happiness journey. I determined what I wanted to do with my life, and I did it. And it was the same thing when I spent 20 years playing in bands too. That's what I wanted to do. I did it. It was a lot of fun. I was very happy then too. I had to step away from it because I had, drinking and mixed in with that too heavily. So, but anyway, that's one of the keys, I think, to living a happy life is setting goals and chasing them, chasing your dreams, not just running down the path that's laid out before you, or the path that you think is laid out before you, but to actually think about what it is that's going to make you happy, to really be introspective about it and think about it, and then to make a plan so that you can do it. And it might be a big plan, and it might be a little plan, it might be a little thing, but whatever it is, we've all got to do that. It is the way to make yourself. It's one of the many ways to make yourself happy. There's obviously a lot of ingredients, in that recipe. But that's what got me here today. It was the dream of living on a boat, the dream of living in the tropics and going surfing, in nice places and good places to surf. I spent last summer in Bocas del Toro, Panama, which is a surfer's paradise. And I think I'll be going back there for the next summer. So yeah, I'm absolutely chasing my dream right now. This is it. Today, especially the surf I caught this morning was absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to eat.
Like conflictual thoughts when you were taking that decision about, I'm going to go and buy myself a boat and I'm going to live from there. I'm going to sell my house. I'm just going to explore and adventure the world.
Yeah. Selling the house is scary. Because I bought a house in St Augustine Beach a long time ago when it was very inexpensive, and I renovated that house, and I owned a house that I will likely never be able to afford replacing. So that's scary, and it was difficult to get rid of all my stuff. I don't own anything that's not on the boat right now, so those are difficult decisions. And it's scary. It's scary to sell a house that you own, and to sell my truck and to quit my job. And I sold my tools. I was a carpenter.
Okay.
I kept a lot of tools. You got to have tools on your sailboat.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But of course, I sold the bigger tools and quit the job. And yeah, I'm taking a big risk, and that always has conflicting thoughts and ideas involved with it. But I enjoy taking risks. Obviously sailing solo and going surfing and spearfishing, it's all kind of risky, but I manage the risk and I analyze the benefit. If the risk benefit analysis works, we take the risk and we do it as safely as possible.
Absolutely. And in your adventure in the ocean,
but talking about selling the house and taking that risk, I'm trying to make it as an artist, essentially, as a writer. And in order to make a living as an artist, whatever kind of art you're trying to sell, you need to have a lot on the line. You can't, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do it if you can always just back out. So I can't back out. there's no backing out of what I've done. If I have to go back to Florida and make it as a carpenter again, I won't be living in that big house anymore, and I'm not going to have the same Suburban I used to have. I just, and I'm 51 years old. I don't want to be a carpenter anymore. So I am committed. I've got to be committed. I've got to be risking everything in order to have a good shot at making it work, as an author. And so far, so good. I've self-published 7 books, and they
Wow,
all sell. People are reading them. People like them. The ball's rolling, and it's rolling in the right direction.
that is beautiful. And all those books, are they related to sailing, or is it mostly your own adventure after you've not given up, but you've like let go of all the material things that you had? Or what is the nature of all the books primarily? What genre?
So yeah, so there's 3 different genres that I write. Um, the first was Alcoholics Not Anonymous, and I've written another one on that subject called The Joy of Living Clean and Sober.
Mhm.
So there's 2 self-help books for alcoholics or drug addicts.
Okay.
I've written 3 sailing nonfiction. The first was Becoming a Sailor. The second was about my first cruise to the Bahamas single-handed, and that is called Journey to the Ragged Islands. And then the third sailing nonfiction is about the big leap I took selling the house and buying this boat, and that's called Chasing the Nomadic Dream.
Okay.
Which is what I'm doing now. I'm chasing my dream of living as a nomad on a sailboat. And I've written 2 novels. One was based on my experiences in a band, and that's called Dead Flowers on Wednesday. And I've written one other novel, and that takes place on a sailboat, the guy searching for treasure, and that's called The Gold Box.
Wow. Okay. And when it comes to an adventure that you've taken sailing, and that really, I mean, the outcome of that trip was really disastrous. I mean, have you seen with like, especially when you see all those movies about the boats, crashing in waves and so on and so forth? Have you ever feared that, or did it ever happen to you when it comes to those kind of like, Mother Nature can be really bitchy sometimes.
I tell you, it does get difficult and uncomfortable sometimes. I've never had a really bad experience on the boat, but I've been scared, and I've been cold and wet, and I've been miserable, and that happens, especially in the beginning when you don't have as much confidence. The longer you own a boat, the more confidence you get in the boat,
Okay.
and the longer you sail, the better you get at it, and the less scary it becomes. But yes, I've definitely had some bad experiences. Nothing, it's not that common though. Usually sailing is either a lot of fun or it's difficult and exciting, but it's not unmanageable. And as a solo sailor, I take a lot of risk, because if I fall off the boat,
Yes.
I'm probably not going to survive. And if I get injured, it's going to be very difficult to continue the journey. So I take every safety precaution that I think is necessary. I have a life raft. I put on a life jacket that has 2 tethers, a self-inflating life jacket with 2 tethers on it. I put that on at the beginning of every sailing trip, and I don't take it off until I'm about to drop the anchor. Like literally, I sleep with it on, and that also has a PLB attached to it, which is a satellite SOS device. And I've got a second EPIRB, which is another satellite SOS device on the boat. And I've got I've got 3 ways to call SOS via satellite. So there are some, and I attach myself to the boat. When I come out of the cabin, I attach one of those tethers to a jack line on the boat. I'm never not attached to the boat unless I'm inside. So it would be very difficult for me to fall off the boat. And if I do, I'm going to be hanging by a very short line, and I'll be able to get myself back on. So I don't take unnecessary risks. It's a big risk just going out there, but I've mitigated the risk. So it's a lot more fun if you're not thinking that you're going to die. If you're not afraid of dying.
Absolutely. But okay, so let me ask you a question that I'm sure a lot of listeners are gonna ask. How do you deal with loneliness? I mean, this is like a journey that you do on your own. To a certain point, I mean, yes, it's beautiful to visit a lot of places around the world, etc. But you're navigating through this vast ocean, being alone in that boat. So how do you deal with interacting with other people, or if you could even interact with other people. But like now, okay, you're in a boat, you're in the cabin, we're doing our podcast, but during the time that you're in the ocean, what do you do to be able to deal with that?
Okay, so when I'm offshore, first off, I don't mind being alone. I've throughout my life, I've spent a lot of time doing things alone, hiking, mountain biking, surfing. So it doesn't bother me maybe as much as it does other people. But so when I'm offshore, I can communicate with people through what's called a Garmin InReach, and that is it's kind of like a sat phone, like a satellite phone, but you can't talk on it. It's not a phone; it's just a texting device.
Okay.
So I can text anybody who has a cell phone
Okay.
with that, and they can text me back, and that's great. I love that little bit of communication, and I get a couple of people to watch the weather for me, so they'll send me weather updates, and just knowing that there's someone looking out for me a little bit like that is really comforting, and just any little message from my dad or my sister or brother or mom or my nieces or nephews, and any little message just saying hello, how are things out there today, it's wonderful. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
I see.
And then when I get somewhere, sailors are great. It's so easy to meet people. Like when I came on the way back from surfing today, I met two other sailors. I met one guy who was on a bicycle who just pulled in yesterday. And then when I was driving my dinghy back to the boat, I just stopped by another boat. It was a beautiful boat, and I just wanted to say hi. And I met the guy on board, and we had a long chat. So it's real easy to meet other sailors. We're all living on boats, isolated from other people, and we're all interested in meeting each other. So I meet people and when I was surfing with two people that I met on another boat here. So it's very easy to be social if you want to be social when you're sailing.
So how do you find places wherever you go to be able to anchor the boat for a certain period of time? So for example, like now the boat is anchored in the Bahamas.
Mhm.
So how long do you stay there before you decide to leave that location and go to another destination?
Okay, so in the Bahamas, it's a windy place, and when weather systems move through, like there's one coming tonight, the wind will swing around and come from different directions. So in a lot of anchorages, that means you have to see that, you have to know that's coming, and you have to go somewhere else. You often have to get up and go because of the weather demands it.
Okay.
So right now I'm in a place called Hatchet Bay. It's completely protected from all directions. It's a circular bay with only a very small entrance between two cliffs. It's only like 100 feet wide. So the wind and the waves can't get in here. I mean, the wind, but not the waves, and that's what really hurts you at an anchorage. So here in Hatchet Bay, I can stay as long as I want. I can stay here, until hurricane season if I wanted to.
Okay.
So I'm just going to stick around here until I feel like moving. I don't know when that's going to be. I imagine it'll be at least another week because I like it here. It's relaxing to just sit still for a while, and there's surf, and there's good diving, and there's good spearfishing here. There's a grocery store. I can get water. It's a nice little spot to spend a little bit of time. But typically in the Bahamas, I'm moving around. I'm not staying anywhere more than a few days, and then I'll find a place like this, and I'll stick around for a couple of weeks, and then I'll move on. In Panama, I stayed in the same place for 7 months because you don't have to deal with the wind there. It's not a windy place,
I see.
and there's such good surf there. There was no reason for me to go anywhere else, so I stayed. So I make those calls. When I get up in the morning, am I going to stay here or go? Sometimes I just wake up and think, yeah, let's move on, and I go. Other times, just gonna sit still for a little while.
So is your boat capable of doing a transatlantic trip, or is it mostly from north to south, or within the area of Florida or the Bahamas, or is your boat can go, let's say, to Portugal or Spain or whatever it is?
Mhm. Yes, this boat can go anywhere. This boat would go all the way around the world. It was built in 1972, and it was designed specifically for ocean crossings, and it was designed specifically for a single hander. So the guy who designed it was a solo sailor like myself.
Okay.
Um, and it's a heavy, safe, strong boat with a long keel. Everything about it is designed for going offshore. So I could take this boat anywhere I wanted to, and that was something that was important to me when I bought it. I didn't really know where I was going, but I didn't want the boat to limit me.
I see.
And if you buy a boat that's made for the worst weather, you don't have to worry about that worst weather so much. I don't want to face any horrible weather conditions ever. It's much nicer to sail in nice
Oh yeah, of course.
ideal conditions. But if I have to, I'm not going to worry that I'm going to sink because of it. The boat's going to handle it. It's not going to be horribly uncomfortable. Yeah. So the answer to your question is yes, I can take this boat anywhere I want.
So how far did you actually go with that boat in your many adventures? I mean, have you gone to Portugal or Spain or wherever else on the other side, or have you just limited yourself to Panama, South America, etc.?
So far, I have not crossed the Atlantic. I bought this boat in Massachusetts, and I sailed her south from there. And then I ended up in North Carolina, and then I took off from North Carolina and sailed for 7 days to the Bahamas. That was in 2019 or 2020. And then in, I guess it was early 2021, last year, I sailed back to the Bahamas, and then from the Bahamas to Panama, which was a 7-day trip.
Okay.
I actually stopped at a little Colombian island first, but about 7 days offshore. And then recently I did my longest solo passage, which was from Panama to Jamaica, and that was 8 days of sailing alone.
Okay.
And then Jamaica to the Bahamas, and that's where I am now. So I haven't done any really long trips yet, but for me, it's not the long trip that is important. It's more of the destination. I like the Caribbean. I like the tropics.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go somewhere else until I feel like I've seen everything here. I still haven't seen all the Bahamian islands. I've been to the Bahamas a few times now, and I haven't seen all the islands here yet. And I haven't seen anywhere near all the reef. There's so much underwater here to see.
Mhm.
I keep finding new things to see underwater that are just absolutely amazing. So there's a lot to see. It's one of my philosophies. You don't need to go far away if there's still interesting things to see and do in your own backyard.
That is so true. That is so true. And are you writing another book right now, or are you like just taking a break with that?
I'm working on, oh gosh, I'm kind of working on 3 books right now.
Okay.
One is another sailing nonfiction. Another one is a novel that's a sequel to The Gold Box. And then I just started co-writing a book with another sailor who sailed around the world in 2018 in the Golden Globe race. So he sailed all the way around the world nonstop, single-handed in the Golden Globe race. And he was out of 18 people that started that race, only 5 finished. And he was one of the 5.
Wow. Okay.
A guy from Finland, Tapio Lehtinen. And I am co-writing a book with him right now about that race, about his journey around the world. So that's kind of my big project right now.
That is really
so I'm always writing. There's always something to work on.
Yes, absolutely. So when you get them published, how do you get them distributed? I mean, I'm sure that you're always traveling all around, so there's not really any place that you can actually have the books deposited to your place so you could distribute them. So do you get another company that takes care of all that, or is it what process do you do?
Yes, that's a good question. Publishing is so different right now than it used to be. I publish my books through Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon's the biggest bookseller in the world right now, and the distribution is strictly through them. People order the books online. They can order an ebook or a paperback. One of the books I have is actually also you can order a hardback if you want.
Okay.
And when you order those, Amazon, if you order a paperback, for instance, there's not 1,000 paperbacks in a warehouse somewhere. There's none. There's the computer, Amazon's computer or whatever makes that book right then and there and puts it in an envelope and mails it to you, and you get it 3 days later. So that's the distribution. It's worldwide. People order my books from various countries. It's not just America. It's anybody with a computer
Yes.
can order one of my books, no matter where you are, as long as you have access to Amazon.
Yes, and I'm sure that
quite a few
everyone
different
does.
Yeah.
I'm sure that everyone
Yeah,
does.
they sell in Canada, Australia, Brazil, Japan, Mexico. All over the world.
Well, it's interesting, Paul, that your journey is very unique compared to the many guests that I have interviewed in this podcast. And I feel that despite the fact that you've you've taken some very calculated risk, okay, which a lot of people are even afraid doing that, despite the fact they know that this risk has the least amount of chances to fail. They still are hesitant to be able to jump on it.
Yeah.
You decide to be able to say, you know what, I want to live the life that I'm set to live. I want to be able to
Yes.
take the chances that I feel will render the best result, even though there's a small percentage that may go the other side. But you
Sure.
you did what you felt was your happy medium, and that's the most important thing when it comes to the happiness journey of podcast, is to be able to share stories just like yours to the many listeners and let them know that, you know what, if you truly believe in, if you're truly passionate about something, take your chances, because if you don't, you're always going to regret it.
Yes. Absolutely. We've all got dreams, and if you never chase that dream, you're gonna regret it. Uh, whether you succeed or whether you fail, when you're chasing a dream, it feels good regardless. And if even if you fail, you're gonna at least know you tried, and maybe you're gonna try again and again and again. People, I mean, we fail all the time.
Constantly.
Anytime you try something big, you're gonna have setbacks and you're gonna have small failures, and you might have big failures, and that's normal. That's par for the course. You got to just keep going. You got to try. If you don't, if you've got to chase your dreams, I think. You know,
And when it comes to because your dream definitely is unique and different from a lot of other people, because I guess people fear the unknown of having to sell their home, having to jump into a boat and not knowing
yep.
where how they're going. But you had a mission. You knew that this is what you wanted to be. This is what you wanted to do. So to
Yes.
all the listeners out there, what would be your best recommendation when it comes to taking that risk, when it comes to living the life of a minimalist, because this is what it is. You don't need a 2,000 square or 3,000 square feet home or cabin,
Mhm.
whatever it is. As long as you have your basic needs met, this is what you need, basically. I mean, it's like for us, when we
Yeah.
look at people who have 10,000 square feet home, chances are they're not even occupying 10% of the 10,000 square feet home. Maybe most of their
Right.
time is in one specific area and all the rest is completely empty.
That's absolutely right. And if someone wants to go from a 10,000 square foot home to a 40-foot sailboat, it's a big step. And what you can do to make that easier is to take baby steps.
Mhm.
Start small. Go camping. That's one thing I think is a great baby step towards becoming a minimalist is go camping. Go see if you can live for a couple of days in a tent, and then you'll realize that how much what you actually need. You need some shelter, you need some clothes, you need some food, you need some light, and that's about it. You need your partner with you, or maybe you need your kids or a book, but it's not that much. You can bring all that stuff on a boat. So baby steps. Take small steps in the right direction. Take small steps. Get used to being a minimalist. Get used to sailing. Go take a sailing class.
Mhm.
Crew on other boats. Start working your way towards that dream. If you have the dream of coming out and living on a boat, you can take baby steps. They're going to lead you down a path that's going to end with you on a boat in the Bahamas or wherever it is that you want to go, living out your absolute dream. And most, the American way is more than we need. We don't need so much. We don't need a huge house. We don't need expensive cars and expensive clothes. That's just what everybody else is trying to do, and most people do the same thing that everybody else is trying to do. It's not necessary. There are lots of people out here living on boats, minimalists. Some of them have kids, some of them have dogs, some of them have kids and dogs. People do it. People do it, and they love it. And you can do it too. Anybody can do it. You just got to start taking steps in that direction. You don't have to do it all tomorrow. You just have to start moving in that direction. You can start by reading books about it, and then you can take sailing classes, and then you can go camping, and then you can start giving away your stuff. Start giving it away. Give away your old clothes. Give away all this old stuff that you don't need, and then
Start
maybe
living.
you move into a smaller house. Maybe you sell your house.
Mhm.
Maybe you sell it and buy. Maybe some people have boats and houses. I think that's a bit it's not what I want to do. It would add a lot of stress if I had to be managing a house on land
Mhm.
while I'm out here. I don't have to think about anything besides me and my boat, and
Correct.
my books. So it's very peaceful and there's no stress. And there's no stress in my life. That's another key to happiness,
Oh
is
yeah.
to minimize stress. Recognize what it is that stresses you out and then eliminate it from your life.
Actually, now there's a big movement, and I'm sure that you've heard about it, about tiny homes, like those
Yeah.
300, 400 square foot homes. And more and more communities are growing because they want to be off the grid. You see, our society imprison us into this grid of debt that, when you buy a home, you
Yeah.
make a loan, and this loan makes you basically just focus on paying the bills. So
Yes.
now more and more people are just living off the grid. They get the little tiny homes, the homes on wheels, and they can leave whenever they want, just like in a boat. The boat you can
Yes.
leave whenever you want, but this is the same principle with a home. And they all, and when you look at them, I mean, it is luxurious. You'll be amazed by what they do with those small little tiny homes on this 25-foot trailer, whatever it is. So I am amazed, and I see more and more people doing this, purchasing their home or their little tiny home and living a very happy life. They don't need excess item to be able to bring their happiness, because as we know, when you buy something, yeah, you may be happy for that very short period of time, Paul, but after
Hmm.
that, that happiness dissipates. And then you look at the things that, why the hell did I buy that?
Yeah.
The purpose and the need suddenly disappears.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, we definitely don't need as much stuff as the typical, American uh, has, or the typical anyone, in whatever country you're from. We don't need all that stuff. You don't need the big house. Living off the grid is very doable. Whether I live off the grid. I've got solar panels, and I don't. Obviously, I'm not attached to anything out here, but you can do that other ways too. But what you said about debt is key. Staying out of debt is crucial. It gives you freedom. It gives you the ability to make your own decisions, and to leave your job if you don't like it. I mean, what's worse than a job you hate? And that's most of your waking hours.
Mhm.
You're going to spend, even if you're working 8 hours a day and you're sleeping for 8 hours a day, you've got another 8 hours. Part of that's going to be commuting. So most of your waking hours are going to be at your job. And if you hate it, and the only reason is that you're there is because you're in debt because of your house and your cars, then you're in prison. You've imprisoned yourself.
That's so
It's
true.
crucial to stay out of that situation. If you can at all avoid going into debt, or if you're in debt, focus on getting out of it and not getting deeper into it.
Mhm.
Change your spending habits. Spend less. Spending less is the same as earning more.
That's true.
And it's a lot easier. It's a whole lot easier.
And as you said, less indebted you are, less stress you live your life, and longer you can live in terms of a quality of life. Because what's the point? I mean, when you look at all those who are multimillionaire and all, and or they live a lavish life, but yet you don't even know what or how much in debt they are behind all this fortune that you think they have. So it's really, some people, like, they look at social media and all the so-called people, they say, oh, this is my life in a private jet and all that. And it's all fake anyway. But people are just inspired by those who actually live that kind of life, but they don't realize that, what, focus on yours, focus what makes you happy, focus what will make you thrive in life in terms of your quality, the people that you spend your time with, etc. So a lot
Mhm.
of people don't put too much attention to that. They just are so focused with the TikTok and Instagram and all this crappy social media, and they forget about who they are as an individual, who they are as living the life that they thrive to live. And that's what I see, that our society are
Mhm.
really spiraling down into a rabbit hole, and we don't really know where that hole ends.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And a great little exercise that anyone can do is to think about what it is that makes you happy. So when was the last time you were really happy? Think about that,
Mhm.
and think about what you were doing, and try to figure why that made you happy. And then think about something else that made you happy. And think about two or three things that really make you happy. And then look for similarities, look for things that are consistent between those, things that are the same within those three things. And then you can start getting down to what it really is that makes you happy. For instance, I know I'm happy when I've been, some of my greatest experiences have been mountain biking.
Mhm.
And then I love to ski, snow skiing. I used to do when I was a kid, loved it. And now I love sailing and I love diving. And well, what do those have in common? Well, nature. They all take place in nature. So that gets down to the core of what it is that really makes me, me, Paul Trammell, happy. Uh, Part of that is nature. And the point I'm making is that anyone can do this little exercise. What is it that makes you happy? Think of two or three things, and then look for consistencies between those, what they share. And then you can start boiling it down, like what is it that really makes you happy? And then design your life so that you do those things that make you happy.
That is an incredible advice, Paul. And on that note, that is unfortunately all the time that we have for today's podcast. And I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule sailing around the world to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible story. Now, we hope that you have all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 6 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one that you listened to today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Adventure isn't hanging up a rope on the side of a mountain. Adventure is an attitude we must apply to the day-to-day obstacles of life. Nothing will come easy, and every challenges you face will require you to change the way that you look at life. Just like any tall mountains you want to climb, there are many dangers to face. The fear of not knowing what may happen can sometimes hinder your progress. If you know your potential, then don't hesitate to push forward. If you know what you're worth, then go out there and take what you deserve and not let anyone or anything stop you from reaching your dream. My name is Dr. Dan Emzalag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.